Estou aqui com o Vitor Hugo Oliveira, diretor da Concrete, que vai conversar, fazer uma entrevista com Ash Maurya antes do evento workshop do BizAgility. Vitor, pode começar, por favor.
Okay, so we're here with Ash, and we're very fortunate to have him here for the workshop. And let me just start out by asking something that, Vivek Wadhwa was here in São Paulo, and he said that 70% of the American startups are self-funded. So he said something as well that you have already mentioned before, that nowadays is easier and cheaper than ever to just do your startup. So do you think that this easy access to the production system, does it make the failure rate even higher?
Well, so what's interesting about that failure rate that I've seen? First of all, there's not a real science to it. I mean, it's really a very rough number. So when people say 9 out of 10 startups fail, the numbers could be higher or lower, but it's a very high number. That's the important point. And I do think that we are building more products than ever before. But what's interesting about it is that the failure rate, in my mind, hasn't really changed that much. You still almost see the same number of startups from an investment standpoint succeed than they were before. So the raw percentages don't change. We're just adding, but we are creating more products than ever before. It's just the odds of success haven't really gone up.
Okay. So what essentially happens, you have more failures, but you're also trying a lot more.
Yeah, and eventually some of them will succeed.
And talking about failure, do you think that failure could be a good thing? There's a lot of talk about that.
Sure. So one of the premises with running lean and with lean startups in general is that we try to build more of a fact-based type of organization. And so if a product or an idea is going to fail, you'd much rather fail multiple times and faster before the big failure. And so if you know that this idea is going to fail in 6 months, I'd rather know that in the first month and be able to tweak the idea and have a chance of what we would call a pivot to something that actually could possibly work.
Good. So changing a little bit the subject, the lean startup movement is right now kind of a hype. A lot of people talking about it. Do you think, how much do you think it actually helps you get better results, and how much of it is actually just a hype?
Sure. So unfortunately, as with everything, there's probably more hype than real lean startup practitioners, and we just as human beings like to chase what we call silver bullets. We want to get the get rich quick answer. We want to get the thing we can go and tell our investors, we are lean, so invest in us. Yeah. And so we're seeing a lot of that going on. At the same time, I do think there is a percentage of early adopters who are really taking this stuff seriously and are really applying it on a very rigorous footing. But I will say that there are really no experts. Like, this is something I get asked a lot. The Eric Rieses and the Steve Blanks, and sometimes they group me in that as the ones who are pushing this thing forward. And I say that all that we have done is really just surface some of the initial ideas, and there's so much work that's still left to be done, and that has to be done not by reading books, but by actually doing stuff.
Exactly. It's one thing that we have started learning about, right?
Yeah.
Figuring it out.
Yeah, so there are just some core principles, and it seems to make a lot of sense. It's very exciting. They resonate strongly. The whole idea of looking at your product as an experiment, of learning faster, all those things just make rational sense. But the details of how I do this, if I'm building an automobile business, or if I'm building a restaurant, or if I'm doing software, what are the specific tactics, what are the specific details for doing it? There's just a lot of work that's still ahead of us.
Okay, I want to thank you, and if you have some final words for our Brazilian viewers.
Sure. So I would say that it's a pleasure to be here. I personally like to go out to places and see the shape of entrepreneurs. I truly believe entrepreneurs are everywhere, and the entrepreneurial spirit is everywhere. And as we touched on before, I think there is no time better than the moment than the present to actually build a startup, to actually build a business. And I really do believe that the principles that we share in running lean and in lean startup really help to de-risk that process. So rather than trying to seek a lot of investment and go build a business, you can actually incrementally build that over time. And so I think the next wave of entrepreneurship is going to be spurring more entrepreneurs than we've ever seen before. And if we are right with this, we also want to raise the odds, and so we'll see more successful entrepreneurs than ever before. So coming back to that first question, I would like to see that odd of success actually increasing. So
Great.
we'll end with that.
Thank you.
Obrigado.
Okay.